So, how many years has it been right now that you've been independent?
I mean, technically since I started. So, what is that? 10 years? 11? No, 11 now. I started in 2012 because that was
2012.
right when I graduated high school. So it just became 2023.
And you didn't take off until 2018, right?
So I guess it depends what you mean by take off because like 2016, I was I was probably making like 3K a month, or yeah, 3K a month. And that was after Fed Up It dropped, which became one of my biggest songs. And it was like just in its early phases. And then probably by like 2018, it got to the point where I was like financially free. So I could just live off the music.
So in
But
2016, you were making enough, which is a really good amount. When did you learn, like, hey, this is how I can monetize this? Because it felt like a lot of artists, even back then, weren't really making bread off the music. Like, they would drop mixtapes on live mixtapes or something, and they wouldn't get paid off of it.
yeah, so when I started like 2012, Spotify was kind of like a new thing. I don't even remember using it at the time. And I remember my friends had just started using it and they were like, yo, you need to get your music on Spotify because it's easier for us to listen to it. So I just put it on there as like accessibility. I wasn't even thinking about payment from the platform because I didn't know how that worked with Spotify. And same with Apple. And I don't think Apple Music was even out then. But back then it was mainly SoundCloud. Everyone was putting things on SoundCloud and you're selling records on iTunes. So I wasn't thinking about getting paid from Spotify. And then I remember it was probably 2014. I got my first check from Spotify for like $500. And I was like, oh, this is lit. Like you actually can get paid from this. And all my songs had like 1,000 streams or something like that. I probably had like 15, 20,000 monthly listeners. And then as Spotify grew, I guess, and my music grew, it just kind of like catapulted. And that's when I got to that point where I told you about in 2016. And then from there, it just kept going.
So at one point, did staying independent become an ideal situation for you?
At one, you're saying,
Because at one point, when you first started, you probably didn't know like where you wanted to go. Like maybe you wanted to get signed.
yeah.
So right now you're still independent. You've had offers before. So when did your situation right now, did you get the idea of like, hey, I want to stay independent at least until a really great offer comes along?
Well, the more I learned about the music business, like as I got older and spent more time in it, I realized like didn't make sense for me to sign because at first, I wanted the popularity and the award shows and like industry events and things like that. And then as I got older and I graduated and I moved here, it's like none of that shit really impressed me anymore. And it's like that wasn't what I was chasing. I was cool with being an underground or unknown artist. Like I can walk down the street, nobody's gonna recognize me. That's something that once you lose that privilege, it's you can't turn it back. So I think for me the way I viewed the labels was becoming that kind of artist where it's like you're popular, you're all over the blogs, everyone knows who you are. And then when you look at the actual money side of it, it didn't match up with what I thought it meant to be signed by a label. So that was a decision, I would say in 2020, 2021. Like when I first moved here, I was still kind of in the phase, like, let me see if I can get signed. And then I was like, bro, what's wrong with the way you're living right now? Everything is great and it'll probably go downhill if you sign at this point because you're getting older, like you're harder to market, I'm not like your typical artist. So I was like, what can they really do for me that I can't do for myself? I already made it this far, so just keep going how I'm doing things.
Yeah, and have you seen any other artists that did blow up and become famous and you're like, damn, their life doesn't seem that great? Like I wouldn't want to have the stresses that they're having.
I mean, you see it all the time, bro. Like you see, the main thing for me is when you see the people that are like, yo, my label won't put my music out, like go spam them and tell them to let me drop. And then it's like you later find out they got to do some sort of publicity stunt or something just to get on the blogs again so they can put their music out. It's like, bro, what kind of life is that, Like, what are we doing here, bro? I'm not trying to do all that. I just, I sit right here the good thing about me is I'm all in house, bro. Like every song you hear starts right here and ends right here. So it's like I'm not going to the studio. I'm not reaching out to all these like fake people to get involved and do this and that. Like I work with producers, or I produce it myself, and it's like an in-house thing. So for me, it's like if you told me I had to go hang my head out that window to get popping on Instagram and be on all the blogs just so I can put my music out, and then you get the music out and you realize you got to recoup all this money that the expenses they built up on your account and this and that, it just doesn't even make sense anymore to make music at that point. So it's like, the way I see it is if you sign, it has to at least be a good deal. Like there are definitely artists that have gotten good deals. I mean, Russ got a good deal. You know, that was a profit split, right? But who's getting profit splits these days?
Yeah.
So that's
other
the
than
hard
21
part.
Savage, really.
And I mean, once you talk to the labels, you know what they're after because the way they want your catalog, and you know, you can tell why they're trying to sign you. So especially if it's a distribution deal, like you want to take 30% off my catalog for what? To upload my music to Spotify? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like I just got on New Music Friday, and how many streams came from that? It's not like it was substantial for you to take 30% of X hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know?
So can you kind of guide me through the process? Because you said this is all in-house.
Mm-hmm.
So can you guide me through the process both creatively and business-wise right now when it comes to first starting a song to release?
All right, so maybe around like 5-6 p.m. I come in here, I put the curtains down, I turn these salt lamps on, I turn that lamp on, and everything is like neon light, so I set the tone, right? And then either I'm listening to beats from my producer, Just Kim, he's pretty much the only producer I work with these days. But either he sends me a pack and I listen to it, or I start making a beat myself. A lot of the times I like making the beat because as I'm making the beat, I already have this song in my head. It gives you a lot more like creativity and freedom because as the beat's coming together, I'm already thinking, oh, I'm gonna do this here. This can be the song title. This can be, you know, the idea of the song. Whereas if I just listen to a beat, it's like it has to hit me right in that moment, or I just have to keep listening to it, and it feels kind of not inauthentic, but it's like the process when you make it from scratch is it just feels way better. So get the beat, start working on the beat, and then once the beat is done, I probably sit right here, put my legs up, start jotting ideas for the hook. I'll get the hook done, record the hook, and then after, I always like to do the hook because if the hook doesn't sound good or I don't like the way the song is going with the hook, then I won't finish it. So I got to make sure the hook is hitting. And then after that, I'll just sit right here, write the verses, record the verses, mix it all. So by the end of the night, the song is done. At the same time, as soon as I'm done, I make the cover art myself. So I just do that right here. I don't have to get paperwork from anyone because I'm the 100% owner of the song. And then I go to distrokid.com, I click upload, and I drag the song file, I drag the cover art, and I set a release date. And then the song goes out. So I can't think of anything else, but
So it's that simple.
yeah, like I literally Monday, I had a flight home on Tuesday. Monday, I was like, I need to get this song done. I started the song at like 5 p.m. By 10 p.m., the song was submitted to DistroKid. So like after that, I didn't have to do anything. So you see what I'm saying? Like it's just a different, and it's not like I'm rushing the process because sometimes it might take me 2-3 days. It's not like I'm always just trying to rush to get it out as fast as possible. But I know like how long it takes me to get a song done and like when I need to submit things by to make sure they're uploaded in time, and that's pretty much it. So imagine like I've tried with the label, it's like, oh, we have to get this signed, you have to send it 3 weeks before, we have to clear it with these people, we got to make sure it's not stepping on other people's release, and I'm like, I'm not trying to do all that, you know?
Yeah. So you're in a unique position where you own. That's fine. You're in a unique position where you own 100% of the master and the publishing to your catalog, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you kind of explain to people the difference? Because there's a lot of people that are selling their catalog right now, and they're really only selling the percentage that they own.
Yeah.
As opposed to the whole thing. So how are you able to get in a position, because even other independent artists don't really own both the masters and the publishing to their catalog?
Yeah, I mean, so to explain the difference, like when you upload a song on DistroKid, the splits, or upload a song to Spotify or whatever, the splits that are on that side of the song are your master, like is your master. So if you're getting 100% of the revenue from DistroKid, that's the master side. Sometimes like when you do a feature, you might give the person 25, 50% or whatever you guys decide. So DistroKid or whoever the distributor is will break it down and send them the percentage of their master and send you the percentage. The publishing is on the back end. So like ASCAP, BMI, things like that. Well, they do writing, like writing credit and also publishing. So the publishing comes at like a later time. It's not paid out like monthly, how the master royalty is, and that'll go to like essentially whoever owns the publishing. So when you see these artists work with a bunch of different writers and different producers and all this, everyone's getting a cut of the publishing. With my producer and producers in the past, you know, we've made agreements where they take the money up front and then they give me the publishing, because a lot of the times, especially if they know I'm not a big artist, it's going to take time for them to recoup, or not recoup, but make how much I would pay them up front if they decided to get a percentage of the publishing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a lot of it, like I offer them, I'm like, you can either have a percentage or I can pay you this much up front and then you don't have to worry about getting paid out from the song. And a lot of them just decide to take the money up front. So then I own the publishing and I own the master of the song.
And this is something that business-wise makes more sense for you right now, because you can probably guesstimate on the low end how much a song is going to make. But you've been doing this since you first started, when you're probably losing money on a bunch of the songs.
Mm-hmm.
So did you always have the foresight of, hey, I kind of want to invest in this right now and have full ownership over it in case it takes off? Or was it just something instinctive?
Well, that was always the idea. I mean, it was like I believed in my music enough and I knew down the road it would be better if I had full ownership over my stuff. And, you know, when I would work with producers and back when I wasn't making any money off music, like I'm spending my last few dollars to buy a beat and I'm like, yo, can I get like exclusive full buyout of this beat? Like I own the publishing and everything. And they're like, yeah. And then the other option was, do you want a percentage of this song even though I have 50,000 monthly listeners on Spotify? And of course they're going to say no. So I let them name their price. I'm not trying to, you know, haggle them down for the price of the beat. It's their beat and I'm offering them, do you want to do percentage? Do you want to do full buyout? And then later when the song starts blowing up, they come back around and they're like, wait, hold on, you owe me money for publishing. I'm like, bro, like how does that work? So that's just, I mean, that's business, you know. You got to make sure everything's in writing. You got to make sure both parties are in agreement with what's going on. But I never want people to think that I'm like manipulating or taking advantage of producers, because that's not what I'm doing at all. Like I'm giving them the information of the different ways you can get paid out. If you want percentages, if you want this, I'm letting them make the decision. And when I buy a beat, I say, name your price. I never tell them, yo, I'll only buy it for this much. Like no matter how big or small the producer is. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just about educating them and whatever decision they want. You know, I can't be the one to tell them what to do. So that's how it goes.
Yeah, and when it comes to releasing music, we kind of had a conversation where you've had issues where maybe being signed would have helped you faster in terms of people like claiming songs of yours or other issues that you ran into. So if you could just like run through some of the bullshit that you had to go through.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the claiming stuff, I first ran into those issues when I was using like YouTube beats, because you're leasing a beat and other people would have leased it before you, or even if you do a full buyout of a beat that's on YouTube and you tell them to take it down and everything, the people that leased that beat before you got to buy it still technically have the right to have their song out, you know, because they didn't, like, it wasn't purchased before they leased it. So that was an issue at first with like YouTube, because I would leave my music copyright free on YouTube so that people could use it in their videos and just kind of give me the exposure instead of YouTube, whatever it's called, what's it called, UGC payment or something like that.
Yeah.
So at that time it became a problem, because sometimes I would tell people they can use my music for free, and even if I had already bought out the song, someone who might have leased that beat before I bought it would claim it for whoever I told could use the video. You see what I'm saying? So say I had a song where I bought the beat, I fully owned the song. I bought it from a YouTube beat, and I told you can use my song in your video. And then a week later, you get a claim from Lil Chucky saying that no, this is actually his song, because the YouTube system, the way it puts it in, if it's the same beat, it's gonna pick up on the same song, even if it's just like the first few intro seconds. You know what I'm saying? So then I'm in a position where I'm like, no, they're using my song, but YouTube is thinking it's someone else's song because it's the same beat. So that was the issue at first. Then we got that figured out. The second issue was just when your song gets really big as an independent artist, bro, there's a lot of bullshit that happens that's kind of like impossible to control. So Fed Up was getting really big, and I remember I got an email and they were like, yo, your song's been removed from all streaming services because of copyright. And I'm like driving and I'm reading this, and this is my biggest song out. It's probably my biggest earner at the time. And I'm like, what the hell? They just sent me an email and completely took my song off all DSPs and everything without even asking me if it was copyright or showing me proof. So luckily, you know, I had a person I could speak to at my distributor that was able to get it back up. But I mean, it lost all the views on, or all the TikTok videos it had made with that song. So it started back from scratch, and just other things that I'm sure fell through the cracks because of that. But when you're independent, small things like that happen, and your hands are kind of tied because who can you contact, you know? And even by the time you do get it figured out, like for me, it was probably back up within 1 or 2 days, but you know, some people might go months or years. I've heard of people having their music taken down and haven't gotten it back up for like months.
And wasn't there also somebody like uploading your songs as
Oh
theirs?
my God, I forgot about that, bro. That shit was crazy. Where do we start with that? I don't remember how. Oh, I found out because Apple Music was like taking the songs off my page and putting them on his page. And these are like my biggest songs, and all he's doing is sitting there downloading the audio from YouTube or whatever, putting his own cover art on it and re-uploading it or redistributing it through like United Masters or whoever else. And it's just destroying my profile. Like what? And I'm an artist with over 1 million monthly listeners at this point, and it's like, where's the checks and balances, you know? So we would get the songs taken down, send him a message, yo, you can't do this. If you keep doing this, like legal action. Blocks me on Instagram, thinking that that'll solve the issue. Goes and puts another song up, and then drops a whole album of my music. Gets a plaque, like those plaques you can buy that says you got this amount of streams on Spotify. Buys a plaque with my song on it saying it's his song, and like advertising on his YouTube or on his Instagram. And I'm like, bro, what the hell is going on? So I got my lawyer to email him, and the dude was so delusional that when we emailed him, he said that it was his song and I was stealing it, and that he has video of him recording the song in the studio. I was like, bro, at this point, like we might have to just take legal action because I don't know what else to do. And then I think he just kind of chilled out and nothing happened after that. I think he kind of, once the lawyer reached out, he kind of chilled out. But
So he believed all this.
bro, he was like, maybe he recorded the song and I don't know about it, because the way he was acting, I was like, maybe this dude really did record this song. But yeah, he was set in stone that he recorded that and it was his song, and I was like, bro, this is crazy. So these are just things you got to deal with along the way, but knock on wood, I haven't had any issues for the past few months, so
Thankfully.
smooth sailing.
We've also had conversations when it came to certain artists preaching like advice, and there's differences between certain independent acts because they get certain privileges the average independent artist doesn't. So what do you consider the difference between, let's say, like a fake independent artist or not a complete independent artist versus someone that's really doesn't have access to anything big?
I mean, I think there's two ways to look at it, right? There's artists that were previously on major labels that are now claiming independence because it's become so popular to be independent these days. So you'll have someone that was signed to a major and released, 4 or 5 albums on it, built up their whole fan base through that system because you're getting all the looks, you know, you're getting on the playlists, you're at the events, so they're growing your audience. And then you go back to being independent, so it's like the audience is still there. Like you have followers on Spotify. That's a way that people see a lot of your music. Say you had 100,000 followers on Spotify, then you signed to the label, and after the 4 years of work and expenses and all that, you have 4 million followers on Spotify. So then you go be independent, you drop a song, you have 4 million people already seeing that song. So I'm not saying that's necessarily fake independent, but it's like, you tell me, when these people say they're fully independent, does that count?
I don't necessarily think so when it comes to maybe like telling people what to do. Because for instance, I'm thinking about it in the sense that if Kodak Black gets out of his deal, which apparently he's set to get out of his deal, let's say he ends up going independent. If Kodak Black is like, yo, this is how you be independent, I'm looking at him like, yo, what are you talking about? You've been signed since you were 13 and you blew up off of this major label stuff. Everybody already knows you. You and the person that is just getting started, there isn't much he can learn from you.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing. Like when you tell people, I mean, obviously I think it's clear that you don't need a label, but I think when you set an example for people that they might not think they're successful independently unless they hit those milestones or whatever standards that they're looking at you for, then it can be kind of misleading, because sometimes you won't be able to reach those standards if you never had that machine backing you at some point in your career. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. I mean, I don't know. I just think I think it's a discussion that doesn't necessarily need to be had at all times on the internet, you know? But I think it's gotten so popular now that it's like first week numbers. Like when that became, nobody was really talking about first week sales like 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. Right? And then when once Axe started tweeting it out, and I mean, you tweet them out too. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm saying once people started focusing on it, then it became like a standard that people are looking at, you know? Yeah. I think it's the same thing with independent. Like 10 years ago, nobody was really talking about who was independent and who was not, you know? I mean, when was the first time it really became like a popular topic? Was it Chance?
It was Chance the Rapper.
So that's kind of when it became popular. And obviously, it's way more popular nowadays because you see major rappers trying to go independent. But as far as like who's really independent and who's not independent, I don't think that's like such a necessary discussion to have. Like there's no reason to try to pull people down for that. But at the same time, I don't think everyone should be bragging or trying to give advice about things that could kind of be misleading if they don't really know, you know, what it's like to be in those early steps and not have a label behind you and things like that. So.
Yeah. What do you think hinders certain major label artists that either got dropped or got off of their deal? Because there have been a couple that, even one very popular one, that when they release music and they're independent, they think it's just going to do the same numbers. And then it kind of, sometimes the numbers look abysmal, like worse than just a regular independent artist that maybe people haven't heard of. So do you think they just haven't learned how to operate as an independent artist? Or do they think like, oh, the numbers that the label gave them, were they fake, or were they just inflated and they didn't know where all those streams came from and they expect it to continue? So what do you think is going through their head?
I mean, the way I see it is like, say you're on a major label, right? And your song gets, I don't know, 1 billion streams. I mean, what level are we talking about? So say you got like 500 million
Let's
streams.
say people that have had songs with more than hundreds of millions.
Okay, so say you got 1 billion streams, but you're on a major, you're only getting paid for, what, 12 to 20, 18% of that?
If that, yeah.
So that would be the same as having like 100 to 200 million streams on the song, right? And that we're talking about 1 billion streams from a label. Like most people don't get into that billion. You could say it with 500 million, right? So if you're independent, you're getting 100% versus when you're on the label, you're getting 12 to 20%. You don't necessarily need to hit those same numbers because you could get a less amount of streams and get the same amount of payment.
But that's when the psychological part comes in.
That's what it is. So you might think you're less successful, but at the same time, you got to understand, bro, these labels, like, there's obviously a reason why they're so successful. Like, bro, major playlists, you know how much they can boost a song? Or I mean, I don't know what other metrics you look at, but I'm just talking about Spotify. Um, I think part of it is just knowing, like, part of being independent is just consistency. You always got to stay in people's faces because you don't have these huge media campaigns like when the album drops where everyone knows it's your week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like for me, I drop every 2 weeks. It's like drop a song, gets on everyone's release radar that's following me, and that's an important thing too because as you're building up your Spotify following, I think Spotify following more important than Instagram following. Like if you don't even know how many followers you have on Spotify and you're an artist, that's a problem. But I remember back in the day, I used to always do like T-shirt giveaways and merch giveaways and things for people that would follow me on Spotify and screenshot it and send it to my Instagram. So I remembered how important that was to get that following up. But you also have to have the song uploaded like a week before just to get it on the release radar. So a lot of these people that start going independent, maybe they just don't know how to properly adapt, and they might need like a manager that knows how to properly do that shit without the label, because obviously the label is going to make sure that it's done properly, but when you don't have a label helping you, then you need someone to show you how to do that stuff.
And you seem to have a great relationship or just appreciation for Spotify in general. A lot of people complain about how Spotify pays. I've never once heard you complain about that. Do you think they just are in a bad position? They are signed, so they feel like they're not getting paid? Or do you feel like Spotify just maybe isn't paying as much as it could be?
I mean, it's their platform. They can pay however much they want to artists, you know? I don't think it's really much of a debate or like something where I can tell Spotify how much to pay me, you know?
Yeah.
They're the ones with the user base, like all these people signing up to use Spotify. I mean, if you have an issue with how much Spotify pays, then go upload to, I don't know, somewhere where you can sell direct to consumer and see how many you sell.
Yeah, that's true.
So like, it's not much of a debate for me. As far as people on labels complaining about how much they get paid, that's probably more of a breakdown from like their balance sheet at the label than Spotify necessarily. So,
Like I kind of mentioned earlier, a lot of people have been selling their catalog. Would you consider selling your catalog?
yeah, I would. I mean, as long as it makes sense. You know, there's multiple different ways to do it. Obviously, I don't know the most about it, but I've definitely had some offers. But you can sell like 50% of the catalog, so you're still a partner in your own catalog. So like if they grow it, then you're still benefiting from it. It's not like you have to sell 100%. But at the same time, you know, I wouldn't, if the money's right, I wouldn't have a problem selling it and just starting a new catalog, because for me, it's easy to, like I said, I release every 2 weeks. Like it's easy for me to build a new catalog back up. And I feel like I'm well enough versed with investments and things like that where I could use that money I got from a catalog, and you already pay less tax on it. You pay capital gains tax instead of regular income tax because it's like an asset sale. So I think I would be pretty well versed to use that money appropriately and grow it while I'm also starting a new catalog. So, but the thing for me is like I'm not desperate to sell it. Like I'm not in a rush to sell it. It's not like I'm begging people to buy it. If someone emails me and the offer's right, then you know we can discuss. But that's kind of how it's been. I mean, I've told you off camera, but somebody will email me, yo, we want this song for this amount of money, or we want this catalog for this amount of money. So that's really how it goes. I mean, they reach out if it makes sense, then yeah. But I'm not against selling it because, you know, I think it's as long as they have the right intentions, and I would assume they would want to grow it. So if anything, it's reaching more people.
Yeah,
You know?
because some artists are saying, "Oh no, I wouldn't sell it because that's like my art, or this is like a piece of me, so I can't really sell it."
From that perspective, now I know what you're getting at. I think the issue is like, God forbid if something happened to me and I died, I don't think it would be very easy for the people around me to get the money out of the streaming services and the publishing and songwriting and all that, because the money's coming in so many different angles. And like, I think you know, as time goes on, like say 40, 50 years from now, who knows where these revenue streams are gonna be coming from, and there's probably just so many different directions of money coming in that a lot of it could probably get lost if you don't, um, I don't know, give someone your login information or have someone making sure they know what's going on with it. So from that perspective, I like when people say my grandkids would still be eating off my Spotify. It's like I think it might get a little complicated in making sure they get that money. That's the part where I see could get kind of confusing too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because think about it, like, imagine you're making money off something your grandpa did, and like you never spoke to him or had the ability to figure out where the hell the revenue was coming from. And this isn't like something just, I don't know, it's hard to explain. There's just so many different revenue streams. Like there's publishing, there's writing, there's your masters, there's like sync deals, like so many different things. So unless someone's like taking over your, I mean, I'm sure there are ways they can do it where someone can just handle all your stuff after you pass. But for me, it's like I'd rather have the money now, have it in my bank, invest it, whatever, and then you can just hand the money down or the investment down. Say you invested that money in the stock market and you pass away, and then that investment goes to your grandchildren eventually. That money might be, 5x, 10x what it was if you put that money in today.
Yeah.
So.
No, I definitely see where you're coming from with that.
That's just me. Maybe I'm OCD about it, but I think it could get lost.
Yeah, because the money part about it too is you need to train somebody to be able to understand, like, hey, this is each revenue stream, this is where it's coming from, and then that person needs to relay it down, and then who knows how complicated it gets if there's multiple kids, and then
and I don't have a business manager, so I do it all myself. But even if you had a business manager, how do you know that they might not be taking some off the top? If they're the one if you're passed away and they're the one in control of all the money, how many stories have you heard of people's business managers robbing them? Like, you're telling me you would just tell my family, oh, here's the amount every month from his catalog, and they wouldn't know how to look into it? That's where I don't know. That's just what I think. It's too much going on at that point.
When it comes to tour, you were considering going on tour earlier this year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still looking forward to touring, or is it something that you kind of see as maybe it's something that's very exhausting? Like, what's the case with that?
Yeah. I mean, the tour kind of got all screwed up because of COVID. Like, I graduated in 2020. That's when I moved here. And I was ready to tour and, like, do the whole thing at that point. And then, obviously, you couldn't tour 2021. You couldn't tour in 2020 or 2021. And then this year, or I guess this will come out in 2023 now, but 2022, I was supposed to do a Europe tour, and then there was like a variant that came out of COVID. So then we were like, we don't want to do that because it was the Omicron or whatever. I think it was in like February. So then we ended up not doing that tour, and it's just always been like a bad luck thing. But as far as you said, your mindset on it now, like, I'm not dying to tour. Obviously I think it would be fun, and I want to know how many tickets I can sell. So what I would do is just go out on the road by myself, just so I can get an idea of like how many people I could bring in. Because if I go out with 3 or 4 other artists with the goal to just have the biggest show, I don't know how many tickets I can sell. That's the question I want to answer to myself. Like, how many? I know I have 2 million monthly listeners. I make money monthly from my catalog and don't have to leave my house. But part of me also wants to know, if I did leave, how many people can I bring out? So it's definitely gonna happen at some point, but it's like every time we've tried, just something comes up and it gets canceled. So I'm hoping I can set something up for Europe in summer of 23.
So you're more so trying to gauge what the reception will be like how many people can you get out to a show, as opposed to just going on a tour for the sake of it.
Because what's the point of that? At least for me. Because I mean, most people that do that are usually signed, and when you're signed, a lot of your money has to come from touring, because you're not making that much money off the royalties from the Spotify and stuff. So, I mean, if I go on the road with 5 other artists, like, first of all, we're probably not even making that much money. We're probably making, what, $1,000 a show or something? Maybe less each. And you got to pay for your crew and all this stuff. So, for me, it's, let me go on the road, see how many tickets I can sell, and also give the fans that experience of seeing the music live. I mean, it doesn't have to be the biggest show ever. I'd rather have it be smaller and just me and real people that want to see me perform than try to pad up the numbers just for my ego, you know?
Yeah.
So,
How have you seen the landscape change for how independent artists or just rappers maybe as well blow up from 2012 to now? Because we've kind of seen iterations where there was a certain era where a lot of artists were blowing up, getting put on certain YouTube channels. A lot of artists were blowing up from having been maybe on SoundCloud early, some through Instagram. So how have you seen that change? And now, what do you think is the ideal way, or maybe not the ideal way, but the most effective way that you've seen certain artists blow up within the past 18 months?
I mean, I think currently the way most people are getting on is like TikTok and Reels, right? Like, and I don't think it can be that other people are using their sound and the sound goes viral, or people are just getting better at, you know, becoming more charismatic, becoming characters, coming up with ideas to get some sort of engagement on those apps and using that as a way to market songs. So I think it's pretty cool because, like, back when I was using Instagram before all TikTok and all that came out, when you post an Instagram video, it wasn't going to people that didn't follow you, right? Maybe like a few people saw it in the explore tag, but it's not like how Reels are and TikToks are these days. Like, these are going to people who have no relation to your profile or anything like that. So say you're promoting a song and one of those videos goes viral, then maybe 500,000 just heard your song or 1 million people just heard your song. If you posted a video on your own Instagram page like 2016, I don't think it would get that many people looking at it, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have that many followers. Like, think about an artist that's just starting out, maybe built a bit of a buzz, has 2,000 followers, and they post a reel with their song in it or a TikTok and it goes viral. Like, that would have been very hard to happen if you were just posting as a regular video on your Instagram page back in the day, you know?
Yeah, they kind of had to rely back
Like, what I had to do was pay bigger Instagram pages to post my video as like a marketing method, you know? So like, I'd pay like Rap TV, just like all these big Instagram accounts that would post my music or my video, and then people would click on my profile and come back to my page. Now it's you just post a reel and there's a chance it just reaches all these people.
Do you think, because I've heard some artists complain like, hey, I just want to make music, but now not only do I have to make the music, I have to learn TikTok and Reels and set up, basically kind of learn a new skill set separately on top of.
Bro, it's so hard now. It's like you have to be you say you sign up to make music, right? And say like you're a person that probably doesn't want to be on camera and all this. You have to learn how to be an actor, a comedian, a video editor. I mean, you name it. Like, some of these reels aren't easy to film. It's like 10 different angles. There's cutting back and forth. There's text popping up everywhere and shit. Because really what you're trying to do is make something that'll draw people in. So even if someone's listening with no sound and they see like a bunch of video cuts and text popping on the screen, those are things that'll keep them engaged with the video. So it's like, bro, it's gotten a lot harder to, well, it's not necessarily harder. It's if you want to make it to a level where you're like sustainable independently, it's a lot harder, I think.
But do you also think that the reward is a lot higher too?
Yeah, see, I think there's a lot more opportunities now, but I think you have to work harder. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's how I think I see it, but.
Because I've never seen back then, let's say, TikTok, where independent artists were getting 4, 5+ million monthly listeners without being signed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just, I don't remember anyone even doing anything that wasn't just like freestyling or rapping into the microphone back then either. Like, now people are doing comedy skits that are pulling people in and then their music plays at the end or something like that. So it's like a whole different skill set, but you got to adapt with the times, or else, like, what are you going to do? Just post your cover art on Instagram and hope people go stream your song? So luckily I've gotten to the place where I'm sustainable enough like making a living off my music, that everything I do now is just to try to grow it, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like my back's against the wall and I have to pay rent every month, and if I don't make these reels and TikToks and get this next song to go viral, then I won't be able to pay my rent. So for me, I'm kind of just like experimenting, trying different things, and it's more of just the competitive part of me that's trying to push me to keep doing these things. But I never thought I'd be making reels where I'm like doing skits and shit like that. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's an opportunity. If you don't want to take it, then you don't have to take it. But that's just what it is.
I think that's also a nature of the game now, because even artists that I've talked to that are signed, they're complaining because they're like, hey, you signed me on the basis of, hey, all you have to do is make music and we'll take care of the rest. But now you're not letting me drop something until I make it go up, and you're telling me I have to create TikTok. So I feel like even the artists that are signed still have to do this stuff.
Yeah. I don't think it's even a part of being signed or independent when it comes to that. I think that's just kind of the landscape. And I think labels are signing people more now off TikTok followings and things like that. It's like if you don't have a big enough TikTok following, they might not want to sign you. So I think that played a part in it too. But the artists that were previously signed and the artists you're talking about, like major artists, yeah, I think they've kind of gotten on there too and started making little videos and things like that, you know? Because it helps, like it can't hurt. That's why I don't see why people would be against doing it. I mean, it's definitely annoying to some people that don't like being on camera, but I don't know.
I guess that's just the nature of the
It's
game
just,
now.
yeah, it's good. Like something's gonna come next in 5 years, and are you gonna say, nah, I don't want to do that? And then you see other artists doing it, and their shit's going up, then you're like, oh shit, maybe I should do that. You know?
Yeah.
It always happens. It's gonna be something else that comes in. Who knows what it is? It's probably something related to VR or automation or something along those lines. And artists are gonna have to see who's first to get on it. And some people might be like, that shit corny, that shit lame. Like I'm not doing that. And then you see someone made $5 million from it, and then you be like, oh shit, you know? Same thing happened with TikTok.
Yeah. Well, also, you kind of operate solo in terms of there are certain independent artists that are kind of clicked up, or they're like a little seen. So how does it work with the artists that you have done features with, and what makes you decide to say like, hey, I want to work with this guy? Is it maybe you have similar listeners, or do you have to enjoy their music? And what is the thought process when it comes to you working with someone?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, bro. Like, I didn't do features for a long time, and then people kept commenting like, yo, you should feature with this person, or you should feature with this person. And I'm guessing it's just because they liked both of our music. And I would reach out, and either you don't get a reply, or they like kind of get flaky. And bro, I'm not gonna be that guy that's just commenting under people's Instagram like fire emojis, like yo, this is hard, just trying to like get, like if they're not gonna respond to me, you think I'm gonna sit there and just like and comment on all their videos just to try to get their attention? Like that's not the type of person I am, bro. If I'm cool with someone and they show me respect like how I show them respect, then we'll work on a song together. But you see all the time, bro, you go on someone that's like has some momentum or is like kind of buzzing, you see all the artists under their comments like, yo, fire, fire. It's like, that's just how the music industry is though. Like you got to be the first one to jump on these people, and how can I benefit from this? What song can I get them on that'll help boost my career, and then I'll just never talk to them again? It's like, bro, it's the flakiest, corniest shit. So for me, the features that I've done, I mean, I've only done what, like 2 or 3 in the last year or two. I hit them up. They responded. We both showed respect to each other. I like their music. They like my music, and we do a song. So that's it. But I'm not gonna be sitting there, bro. If I DM someone, ask for a feature, and they don't respond, when I know they've seen the message, you think I'm gonna go comment on their page and like their pictures? What kind of weird shit is that? It's like being in high school and like chasing the cool kids around and like knocking on their door trying to get their attention.
Yeah, no.
If that's what you got, if that's what you got to do to make it in the industry, like make your streams go up or whatever, then you can do that. But to me, that's some sucker shit, bro. I'm not gonna do that. And it's not even like I'm too cool for it. It's just a respect thing, bro. Like if they don't respond to me, I don't have any hard feelings. It's just they don't want to work with me, or they might have something come up. It's not like I don't like the person, but I'm not gonna sit there and keep commenting to try to get their attention. It's just stupid.
That makes sense. So it's not, features is not even something you really consider because you didn't really build on features either.
Yeah, or I mean, I've reached out to probably like 6 or 7 artists, and maybe 2 of them have responded. So it's like, I don't get hurt about it, but it's like people ask me to feature with this person, right? I'll DM that person. Yo, just listen to your latest song or whatever, which I actually did. It's dope. Like, if you want to work on something, let me know. If they don't respond, then
Can't do much more than
I
that.
keep it pushing. Like, I don't hold grudges against people. I don't care either way. I mean, I have a pretty big following myself where a lot of the times I'd be helping them out just as much as they'd be helping me. So
All right.
that's how it is.
I think we covered damn near everything, unless there's something else that might have come up to the top of your mind.
Let me think.
We talked about tour. We talked about.
I got questions for you. So back in like 2016, or even before that, like 2012, the most popular type of rap was like lyrical shit. You had like, well, J. Cole was even before that, but like when J. Cole came up, Kendrick,
I said 2014, 15, yeah.
and then even like Lupe, who else? But you know what I'm talking about. Just
Wiz
like,
Khalifa to a degree.
yeah, Wiz Khalifa. Then it kind of switched to more melodic,
Like
not
trap,
necessarily like
kind of.
yeah, I guess trap, but more definitely more melodies and music. And then then there was like the whole mumble rap, like everyone was getting pissed at mumble rappers and things like that.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And then now it's like fully melodic almost, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's not even a verse anymore. So the verse is all melodies, the hook is all melodies because it sounds good. And I noticed this because of Latin music, bro. You think about how many people listen to Bad Bunny that don't speak Spanish? It's because it's all melodies, bro. Right?
That's true.
That's what they're listening to, the melody. They don't know what the words mean. So I think it's like playing a piano. The melody of the song is what draws you in. My question is, where do you think it goes from here? 2025.
I think it continues in this direction. I think rapping, especially like basic rapping, the traditional style is very, very, very difficult to get on because people are just going to look at it like, yo, I've heard someone do this and do it way better than you. So why would I listen to you?
So are you talking about like cadence, or are you talking about just like dropping bars, like knowledgeable bars, like punchlines?
A little bit of both. Kind of like for example, West Side Gun and these guys, they've brought production to kind of like old school type of rap. So they've brought new type of beats with the producers they work with, but they still only really captured an older audience. So I think melodies have to continue. And I was running this through my head earlier because I was having a conversation with a friend last night about Sean Paul. I was like, yo, in the early 2000s, nobody really in America could understand Sean Paul, like unless you were Jamaican, which is a small population. But he was everywhere. He had smash hits. He was all over the radio. People were buying his songs. So what was it? And I think it was the era back then where people wanted upbeat, kind of like club turn up music, and especially
was
like
that Temperature?
Yeah, Temperature,
Put
Get
on the way
Back.
down, that shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was fire.
exactly. And then
I
you had
remember
like
that.
another
I was in middle
song.
school, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, you had another one, Get Busy or something like that in 2002.
I'm sure
That
if
was
I
like
heard
the
it, I
first
would
one
know.
that took off. So I think especially post 2020, 2021, 2022, people want more like up music. Like the depressing emo rap stuff is dead now too.
You think
That
so?
had its phase. I don't see anybody that's popping that's making that kind of music.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Like after Juice WRLD, Lil Peep, XXX, who even himself like kind of switched it up a lot. Emo rappers, they're not really popping. There's like more dark rappers. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider Suicide Boys having been emo rap necessarily. They had to have their own pocket. But I think rap's become so widespread. If we're talking mainstream music though, I think it's gonna be like more dance type of music. Kind of like a blend of either taking inspiration from Afrobeat, maybe even like K-pop elements, stuff like that. I think is where it just has to go because that's where the rest of the world is.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Um, so you think like the new Uzi,
I
like the
don't
Jersey
think
Club. I'm not
enough.
gonna lie, they played that. I heard that at the club for the first time like 2 nights ago. That shit went crazy in the club.
It's
Like
hard.
everybody was dancing to it. I was like, damn, now I understand because that was the first time I had heard it out. And yeah, I mean, you're right about that. It's definitely like the dance, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in like 5, 10 years. See
Yeah.
where the sound goes.
But I do think there's always going to exist like the layer right below super mainstream where you have a wide breadth of styles of music.
I just thought of something else that I wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about. So another thing that I see with artists coming up is they'll look at someone like Drake or like the biggest artists and see what they did and be like, all right, they did that, then I can just copy that and do that too. In the sense of like the quality of their mixes or what their cover art looks like or things like that. Like remember Kanye just dropped the plain black cover art?
Yeah.
Think about how many people were like, all right, if Kanye's doing that, then I could do that too. It's like you got to understand, you can like their music and look at them for inspiration, but they're just on a different standard where they can put out any quality of a mix, any album art, like basically do whatever to a sense and still get mass recognition and people to like it. When you're an upcoming artist, you're going against people that already are kind of looking at you like you got to prove yourself to me, you know?
Yeah.
Like when these major artists drop, people are flocking to their albums trying to listen to everything and already going in with the like feeling that they're going to enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
When they go to an artist with 50,000 monthly listeners, they're like, let me see what you got. Like, this probably going to be trash, you know? So that's why
That's
I'm
true.
like, you can't see someone way bigger doing something and be like, oh, just because they're doing it, it must be okay. You got to go the extra mile to make sure quality is fire, cover art draws people in, like everything is perfect, you know?
So do you think that type of mentality would somewhat work if they're looking at someone maybe one or two steps in front of them as opposed to someone that's like a mile ahead of them?
Yeah, it probably worked better. But the reason I thought of that was because sometimes like I'll be listening to my mix in the car, like I'll bounce a song and I'll listen to it, make sure everything sounds good, and then I'll listen to like a Drake song or something. I'll be like, oh, their mix sounds like I could, if mine just sounds like that, then it'll be fine. But a lot of times I notice like that doesn't necessarily set as a guideline because no matter how Drake or someone like that's mix sounds, people are gonna listen to it anyways, you know. Whereas for me, if I drop a song and the mix quality isn't that good, it's probably gonna push a lot of people away than help me. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
So like people will make excuses for them, but for you, you kind of have to be on your A game.
For every upcoming artist, you got to be on your A game because any chance someone has to be like, oh yeah, the song was alright, but you know, like the drums didn't hit hard enough, or like they'll make any excuse to knock your music. You know, you can't compare yourself to someone that everyone like loves and wants to listen to. That's what I've noticed. But
No, that's yeah, that's a good thing.
like you telling me if I came out and I just dropped a black square as my cover art like Kanye did, and expected people to click it and open it,
Nah, nobody's clicking that.
that's what I'm saying.
People that already listen to you might just scroll past it because it's just something so out of
Yeah,
what you're normally doing or what's come to be expected.
yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. It's a grind out here. It's not
One
easy.
more thing though, do you think the environment or the city that you live in would impact your music at all? Because currently, right now, you're living in Miami. But do you think if you lived in, I don't know, maybe like Wisconsin or something, just somewhere more like down low, do you feel like you would be less inspired, you'd work better, or would it have to be like, oh, maybe I could make 15 or 20 songs there for like over a month, but I would have to get out of there?
I mean, I can kind of speak to that because I came from North Carolina, so I was in the suburbs of North Carolina, and now I'm in downtown Miami. So I kind of see both sides. Honestly, recording somewhere like where I was before in North Carolina, bro, it's so relaxed and it's just like I heard this thing that was like it's better to be um, like well known in a small city than a nobody in a big city or something along those lines. And it's like when I lived there, bro, I was just chilling. Like minding my business. You know, I'll record and it's so free. Like you're just at peace. Here, bro, I step in the building, Gucci shirt, Louis shirt, Fendi jacket. Oh shit, what's going on? Lamborghini Urus, Rolls Royce right here. Like as soon as I pull up my parking garage, it's just that instant click of like, oh shit, everyone here is like on a different type of time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some people can use it as motivation and be like, I want that car, I want to look like that, like I'm trying to go hard. For me, I feel like I moved past that phase of my life where it's like, I'm not in the look at me flashy phase anymore. I'm just like bro, I'm wearing a Nike sweater, small chain. Like I just chill, bro. And I think whenever I go home to visit my family and I come back and I see all that, it just kind of, part of it ignites me a little bit. Like, oh, you're back into like work zone. But these are things that you always hear about when you move to a big city and you would think would be awesome, like seeing nice cars and big houses and shit like that. And for me, it's just like, I would rather be tucked away somewhere where nobody knows where I am and just, I'm at peace, just free making music. Here, it kind of gives me an extra little, like, I gotta speak a little more, like, flashy or, like, just to fit in. You know what I'm saying?
That kind of transitions into what I was also going to ask, which is, do you think that environment, especially if it's like way more relaxed, would impact the type of music you're making in that setting?
When I first moved here, it definitely did, because I remember I was making songs like flexing, like big body in the foreign when I come through, like shit like that, you know? Just because you're looking at all these other people doing the same thing and it's like, that's what they would want to listen to. That's the environment I'm in. And then that was probably like the first year I lived here. And then I kind of just got a grip of myself again and remembered, you know, like for me, I'd rather have money than be flashy. What was that tweet you sent me? It was like, I don't want look at me money, I want leave me alone money.
Yeah.
That's how I'm at, right? That's how I feel right now. Like, I don't really want to be flashy, and it just once you have money and you try to be flashy like that, to me, it started to feel like I was trying to brag and show off like I'm better than people, and I really didn't like that feeling at all. It kind of makes you feel like shit when you get back home after and you're like, I get it, people are proud of their success and they want to show it off, but for me, it just didn't feel like that. So, I mean, I obviously own nice things and, you know, from time to time I'll wear it, but I just could never fit into that constant, like, battle to show that I'm the richest, show that I have, like, the nicest car, show that I'm, get the most girls. Like, that just wasn't for me. And it took me, like, 6 months or a year to realize that once I got here, but now I just like the weather. It's nice, you know?
It is nice.
Once I got past that mental part of it, now it's just like I mind my business, I chill.
Do you ever see yourself like retiring from music, or do you think you'll always just make something?
I mean, it still doesn't feel like a job. That's the thing. It's like I'll hear a good song and it'll make me want to get in the studio and think of what I can make. So it's really, like I was explaining the process earlier, it doesn't feel like a job because I can just sit here and do it all. And I can put it out if I want to, or I don't have to put it out. So I think even when I'm like 40 something, I might just get in there and record something and just drop it. It doesn't cost me money to drop a song, so
Yeah.
you know, if people want to listen to it, they can listen. But
Do you think that's kind of what allows you to enjoy it more? Because if you saw
For
something
sure.
that you liked, you're like, hey, oh, I got to book a studio time now, and then I got to go get ready and go there, and then I got to work with this engineer and all those other elements. Do you think that might deter you from actually going through with it?
Definitely. I mean, I think everyone has their own process. I've tried that, and since I mix and master my own stuff, it just doesn't work as well for me. Like, when I'm sitting with an engineer, I don't feel as vulnerable. Like, I can't, like, when I'm in here I don't let anyone in the room when I record, so it feels more, like, free and vulnerable, and I can say whatever I want. I've been in studios before, and it just felt rushed, and it felt, like, like, you don't feel at home, you know? When you really feel at home, especially when your studio is in your home, it's just a different feel to it. So that's how I like it. I mean, some people like studios and having like a lot of people in there. It's all just what you prefer. But for me, that's just how I like it.
All right. Well, I appreciate you for.
We're good? How long
having
was
me.
that? Hopefully it's still recording.
It's still recording.